So the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, has been responding to those attacks we're reporting on by saying Ukraine's allies now need to supply more air defense systems to Ukraine. Ketivan Gorjestani, let's talk about that then. What Kuleba said is really no change of messaging from the Ukrainian government. They've been saying this for a long time now. Look, we need more military aid. We need more air defense systems. But it seems there's a bit of concern in Kyiv. Is the Ukrainian government right to be worried? Is American aid drying up, for example?
They are absolutely right in being worried, and there is a sense of urgency that you didn't really have in the previous messaging, even though the core of the idea is we need more weapons and we need them now. But they're seeing what is happening in the United States, and the fact is that, yes, last month, the U.S. Pledged another $250 million, but when they announced that package, they said it's the 54th package for Ukraine in military aid, and it's also the last one that we can send out because we don't have any more funding for Ukraine. We need to authorize more. What are we talking about? We're talking about that more than $60 billion that Joe Biden is asking Congress to authorize, and that is stalled in Congress because the Republicans are waiting to get concessions on something totally different that has nothing to do with Ukraine, which is the U.S.-Mexico border, and they're holding that to sort of use it as bargaining chip, and so far the Ukraine aid is not going through. And these latest strikes by the Russians over the past week have been used by Joe Biden. He pointed at those strikes saying, look, this is why you need to pass the funding that I've been asking you, because Ukraine needs that money right now. Now, concretely, we're not talking about weapons stopping in the next few days flowing into Ukraine, because there's, of course, a different timeline between the pledge, the announcement, and the time when those weapons actually arrive on the ground. And your guest was mentioning the F-16s, for example. So there's still going to be weapons coming in. The question really is about the medium to long term. And that is why the Ukrainians are worried, because the U.S. is the biggest military supplier for Ukraine, and they really need those weapons.
Okay, so American weapons really matter then, Ketivan, but so do weapons coming out of European countries. What's the position in Europe at the start of this year?
Well, it's a little bit similar, except the Europeans are not the biggest military aid supplier, unlike the United States. But you're seeing in Europe sort of the same things happening. And in Europe, it's more about the financial aid, the budgetary aid, because the EU is the largest financial helper of Ukraine. And yes, Ukraine needs weapons, but they also need money, financial aid, humanitarian aid to keep the country afloat while they fight. And that, again, just like in the United States, last month we saw that the EU failed to pass a long-term 50 billion euro financial aid package because it was blocked by one country, one leader, Viktor Orban of Hungary, who is an ally of Vladimir Putin. And so the Europeans are trying to find a solution to get that money through, because they know that as much as the Ukrainians need the weapons from the United States, they also need the money from the Europeans. And just like with the weapons in the U.S., it's not technically about the short term, because there's still EU budget from 2023 going on. It's about the medium to long term. And there's another common streak in these two elements in the US and in the EU. It's the symbolic signal that it sends to Vladimir Putin. And it was Ireland's Taoiseach Leo Varadkar who put it really well, and that will be the end. Ukraine will not stand without the support from both the EU and the United States. If Ukraine doesn't have that support, Vladimir Putin will win.